Hi, I'm Ken Walker, and I welcome you to The Living Island, and it's a series I'm going to be hosting. And I want to share with you a little background about the island itself and the focus for this series. I have walked on Beaubears Island now for 5 years, and I know the island pretty well. A few years ago, I started to look at it a little closer. I began with the geology. It was an interest of mine. Here was the island, and walking around the perimeter of the island, the geology comes alive, and it goes back some 300 million years. And then you go on the surface of the island, and we have these dominant white pine trees, and some of them, we haven't really done any bore samples with them, but some of them, given the diameters and circumferences, are 300 years old at least, and could be more. A white pine can go 450 years. But at the base of these trees, in different parts of the island, you're looking at mosses, ferns, and these have been on the island probably since the end of the glacial age. They could be somewhere up to 3,000 to 4,000 years old. So we have all of those different elements and ages that you look at on the island and hopefully stop and take a closer look. That's what I'm going to do with you. This past summer, my fascination with the island took a more serious note. Along with another fellow who has spent most of his life in the woods as a professional forester, we've undertaken an in-depth look at the island, looking at the environment, looking at the ecology, and then referencing that to the effects of climate change. Now, it's a long-term study, but first let me tell you about the island itself. Now, Beaubears Island is located in northeastern New Brunswick. This is the maritime part of Canada. We're at the confluence of the southwest and northwest Miramichi rivers. Now, these are some of the best salmon rivers in the world. Where the island is at the east end begins what's called the Miramichi River Estuary. It is tidal, so every 6 hours we get a tidal change here. So we have the rivers coming down from the highlands behind us, and then flowing out to the Northumberland Strait some 60 kilometers. The watershed of these two rivers empties between 25 and 30% of all the water in New Brunswick. It's huge. Now, going back, when the glaciers retreated some 4,000 years ago, the island was reduced to simply stone. And again, colonized then by the mosses, and later on some club mosses, and later on some ferns. But somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 years ago, the indigenous peoples were coming here, following the herds of woodland caribou mostly. And they came to the island, and they called it, not right away, Quamenaguk, the island of pine. And they were here early on, so when did the first white pines show up? We don't know, but they were there early enough for these people to name it that way. The island is 2.3 kilometers east to west, and averaging north-south around a half a kilometer. Now, in the 1600s, the French had a trading post in the area, and they used the island as kind of neutral territory. There were Franciscan missionaries here as well. A more difficult time was in the mid-1700s, when the Acadian refugees came here and they were escaping deportation by the British during one of their endless wars. Shipbuilding started here in the late 1700s by the Scots who were coming here and continued until 1866. At that point, when shipbuilding left, the island was kind of left to itself. There were visitors from the area. They would go over in their boats or even walk over in snowshoes during the winter. 1920, it was purchased, became private property, and the owner at that time said, no one. And that was a gift, because at that point, nature was free to simply take back the island as a natural place. In the 1930s, the island was recognized as a National Historic Site, both for shipbuilding and this deportation problem that the Acadians were going through. Here we have in our season, which goes from June to September, tours that we do for history, ecology, we have school tours, archaeology, or you can just come here and do a walkabout all by yourself. We have an extended family of fox. We have deer. We have bald eagles that come back every year to raise another family, and it's just wonderful to see them on the island. Plus the 300-year-old white pines and everything else that's growing here. There is a web page and a Facebook page, so this information's there, but I just wanted to tell you here in the introduction. Now, the focus of the series itself is going to be on our climate action plan as how climate change is affecting, and to whatever extent, the ecology of the island. How the plants and the animals respond, adapt to whatever change is going to occur. Now, this is a long-term project. We just started it in 2020. And I'm hoping that long after I'm gone, it'll still be going on. Because we look at climate change today as a very serious problem. But in any change, and we see this in Earth's history, there have been mass extinctions, but life has never stopped. And on the island, as the whole area around here, there's going to be winners and losers. It's as simple as that. We're looking at positive changes, we're looking at negative changes in the macro setting and in the micro setting. So we're looking at the forest itself and then at stuff you probably would never even notice. And it's based on science, not speculation, not opinion. It's based on science. Well, in this introduction, I hope I have your interest, and if I do, please come back to this site. Next week, I'll begin the tour of the island and hopefully get you more interested to where you come to the island. Until then, take care.